So, hello everybody, Ajahn Spencer with some Amulet School and VIP update for currently out of store items, which if they do not get sold through my VIP auctions, then they will appear at some point in the shop. So we'll start with the Mac toy of Lumpur here, and zoom in a bit to see the aged lacquer. It's very stiff, this here, it's that aged. It's big, it's not very heavy because it's not a beer gear filled with mercury, it's a Mac toy, a beetle areca nut, magical areca nut wrapped with cord and lacquer and whatever Wicha Lumpur rod would do. And this is a jumbo size one, so very, very rare, with the classic crisscross style cord wrap. So familiar too. See if we can get some light properly. So familiar to this master. So a jumbo size one, very rare, very much in demand. I've had a few in my shop. They all went the first day or second day because you can't really find them, and amulets of this age from this master and this particular amulet, this the Mac toy, is of Lumpur Iam. Yeah, it's very Lumpur rod, sorry. Getting confused again. Of Lumpur rod is, I suppose, a top 10 or top 5 classic according to common preference, public preference. Here we have a very, very excellent example of the Prapita, which you have Pim Chalut and Pim Tapat. This is, I believe, Pim Chalut. Yes, Pim Chalut. And if you look at the Nua, it's not covered in lacquer like you would see from Lumpur Tong Suk or Lumpur Iam of Wat Sapan Sung. You also had Ajahn Bai and Lumpur Grin make these amulets, and the current abbot Lumpur Kong Sanya also. It's a Wicha of 5 different monks throughout the ages of Wat Sapan Sung temple. But this particular Muon San, the reddish Muon San, looks so much like the Muon San of Lumpur Keo of Wat Kreawan. But the reason you can see the Muon San is often you'll see it's white powder, yeah. In this case, it's a reddish powder because it's wan and wan sabu lut and stuff. And because it doesn't have lacquer, I would assume that it's from Lumpur Grin, who was allergic to lacquer. But judging from the age and the pang, which you cannot remove with a knife or fingernail, that forms in the recesses, the protrusions of an amulet, dirty fingernails again. The protrusions of an amulet always look smooth with old amulets, yeah? And the bang talc, the sacred talcs, and the fine powders that rise up as the amulet contracts as it dries, pushes the finer powders up, and the heavier pigment molecules come together to get this fossilized effect and condense. Looks more like the age of Lumpur Iam. But Lumpur Grin was alive also same time Lumpur Iam in his later era and looks it direct. So very difficult to say, but because without lacquer most people would say Lumpur Grin. But I look at the age and the dryness and fossilization of this, what I call fossilization. I mean, fossilization takes millions of years, but the stone slowly becoming, what do we call, petrified. The petrification of the sacred powders, the stony transition into a stony substance, indicates much more that it's probably from Luang Pu Iem, the earliest originating master of the Vicha Pratpitta Watsapan Sung. This doesn't have the big belly button, the Sadr Jun, which is the most preferred and in Thailand the most expensive model. When I sell, I don't really make usually a difference depending on how much I pay to get the model, because sometimes I might get a Sadr Jun from somebody at the same price I get the Sadr Mai Jun, so I'd sell it at the same price, although in Thailand they would sell it much more expensive. I base more on what did I pay, what's my usual margin, and base it on that, not on what is the standard market price. Unless I pick one up like a 10,000 baht amulet from somebody who doesn't have a clue what it is and they sell it to me for 1,000, I'll have it, yeah. I won't sell that too much cheaper than the market price, because that destroys the whole marketplace and other people's lives and professions. You can't do that. Even if you wanted to be nice to people, you have to respect. But in the case of certain models are more expensive than others, if I get them at the same price too, and one model it should be more expensive, I find it hard to charge more for one than the other. Unless one won a first, second and third prize in 3 competitions and the other one doesn't have a certificate, but they're both the same good amulet. Of course, one would be more expensive than the other. So it just depends on the context in the case. This is a Luang Pu Tuat, Pong Prai Kuman, in เนื้อเขียว ว่านเทาหลง เนื้อเขียว green, from Luang Pu Tim of Wat Lahan Rai. Yeah. And it's collected in the Chut Pi Ning Ha edition, the 2515 edition. But actually this Luang Pu Tuat, I believe, was made, let me just zoom out, I believe was made quite a long time before. I call it a Pim Boran, yeah? I call it a Pim Boran. I call it a Pim Boran, yeah? Which means ancient pimp. I would say probably more around 2510. But doesn't say what Lahan Rai on the bottom, no. You see? So if it did, then it would have to say 2513 to 2515. But the aging of this Muan San and the type of Muan San and the amount of Pong Prai Kuman tells me that, and Ajahn Pisek, the president of the Luat Bangkai Association, yeah, and Mr. Virat, who is the organizer of the competitions, and Ajahn Pisek Sisawat also agree on that one. So this is a Pim Boran, a very old amulet from the great Luang Pu Tim of Wat Lahan Rai with the Yang Kabong Kwai on the rear face. Luang Pu Tuat, เหยียบน้ำทะเลจืด in เนื้อเขียว and is certificate number 2037. Yeah. You can see it has the impression here of something which I'm not sure what that's an impression of. Yeah. Number 2037. พระผงไพรกุมาร พิมพ์โบราณ old models, old pim, any kind of sacred powder, doesn't matter what color. So it's a Prat Pong Prai Kuman category of the Pim Boran Un. All other kinds of ancient models, early era models. So this is a very early era model of Luang Pu Tim, and is number 2037. It comes with certificate from the Samakom อนุรักษ์พระเครื่องหลวงปู่ทิมเลือดบ้านค่าย in Rayong of อาจารย์พิเศษศรีสวัสดิ์ I'm staying with หลวงปู่ทิม the only one I have of all at all. People don't have quite a Kunpan collection, but stuff like the Pimburan just now, and this is a Prat Pong Prai Kuman Pitta Jumbo, the Jumbo Pitta, and as you can see in the stomach, I would assume a piece of Shin Atan inserted, and Jibara robe and long sai re tong kam with Naman Pajau Taksin, so pressed gold flakes into the amulet through putting oil with gold powder into the block press before putting the wet clay in and pressing it. As you can see, Gradong Tao, turtle back, with the younger Bong Kwai again. Yeah. The 5 Jnani Buddha Yantra of Luang Pu Tim, which is of course Namo Puttaya, yeah? And above it It Soa So and Ma A U, yeah? Namo Puttaya, Nama Pata, Esoa So, Nama A U, Uama, Sosoa E, Yata Put Mona, forwards and backwards, so. Spellcasting often involves forwards and backwards recitation for various reasons, usually to make the mind very strong in its understanding and holding the kata and the spell in your mind. Is that if you can do it backwards and forwards with great ease, then you have achieved an adept level of incantation. So now we're going to look at a classic that is a very expensive amulet for the year it came out, which was 2509 BE, which is the Prat Somdet Bang Kun Prom, which is famous of course for its very high content of Prat Somdet Wadrakang and Bang Kun Prom within. I can't zoom again. Oh, I was zoomed. So zoom in again to get a focus. You see it has the classic Bang Kun Prom stamp, and this turquoisey stamp is seen in many editions but often seen in the 2509 edition. This is a Pim Chedi, which you can of course conclude by following the line of the days to see that it meets in the spike top knot, the Paget Mala of the Buddha at the top. And you can see on the other side too, exactly the same, that when you follow the days of the Buddha here, you follow the days of the Buddha in a line with a ruler, you will see that it meets in the middle of the arch at the top, whereas a Pimyai would, this would be wider, these would be wider and not so triangular, and the ruler would stop here and about here, either side of the center. So this is a Pim Chedi, and it's a Somdet Pim Chedi Wat Bang Khon Prom 2509 BE. One of the major ways they use to look at these amulets of the 2509B edition is to look at the sides for the contractions and the effect, yeah, and the thickness. And then on the back, of course, the rubber stamp, not all of them have them, but that really helps to confirm. But you can see the Roy Non, and if you look, you can see little pieces of chunks of Wat Bang Kun Prom and Wat Rakang amulets inside. And if you study the book, the study material, there are books, well-made books about this edition, you will see that the นื้อis perfect and exactly theเนื้อ of the พระสมเด็จวัดบางขุนพรหมปี09 2509 BE สมเด็จวัดบางขุนพรหม Look at this kind of, it's, I don't know how to call it, like a milky porcelain effect starting to form on the edges here, which is typical Bang Khun Prom 2509. And the markings, the measurements, the angles between the days, the body, the head, absolute. This is an encru for study. It's a perfect Pim Chedi Bang Khun Prom 2509B. It's absolutely perfect example. It's one that any magazine or catalogue maker would ask permission to take a photo of, because it's a perfect example to show what an authentic Bang Khun Prom 2509 is like. But believe me, they are not cheap. They are not cheap. If you consider how much I charge for a Prat Somdet of Somdet Prabhupada from Rangsi, who began in about 2535 BE to make and stopped in about 2408 before his passing, and did 3 eras. You're looking at 160 plus year old amulets and stuff, yeah, 100 to 160 years old. This you're looking at half centurion amulet, half a century old, yeah, a bit over now, 50, 60 years old, yeah, which is an old amulet, of course, but it is one of the most highly collected. And apart from the Wat Bang Khun Prom 2500 Chedi Gut Chedi opening, Gut chamber opening, to dig out old amulets of Somdet Prabhupada, which were already in there since decades, so 150-year-old amulets. They are the most preferred Bang Khun Prom amulets and are as expensive as the Somdet Wat Rakang of Somdet Prabhupada equally. These are not that expensive, but for the year, it's one of the more expensive editions of Prat Somdet and most collected in Thailand. You can't even find, you can find books about them, but to find one, a real one, these days, so many Malaysians and Singaporeans and Thai people have just snapped them up. They're harder to find than many. I can find a Prat Somdet Wat Rakang, older from Somdet Do, easier than I can find Somdet Bang Khun Prom 2509B. It's just our top collection, always will be. And of course, as the years pass, just ever more so. Those who know this edition will know exactly what I'm trying to explain. Those who don't, I don't know how to explain it. It's the 2509BE is a highly preferred edition, yeah, and highly prized, and also highly priced, and very rare. And with collectors, is just absolutely one of the most collected and hardest to find Prat Somdet of this kind of school, yeah, of the school of Somdet Do. And this is a Prat Somdet Pim Sendai Wat Rakang, of course, which I picked up. Well, I picked up just now. What I mean is, well, you know what I mean, which I got hold of. And this is absolutely 100% first to second era So 535 to 2550. This is not the last era, but this fits absolutely every feature that even the Tarpagent books will demand. That these two lines here of the Tanku, the double line dice, that the top line slowly moves down towards this line here. You know I don't like to look at the pin too much, but to tell you which pin it is, yeah, this a bit longer, that one arm is curved, one arm is straighter, yeah, hardly a neck, the tiny matchstick head, the very, very long slender thing here, the little bubble at the top where it joins the arch, a slight lean in the top of the amulet, and that this line here slowly fades and touches in the middle here, yeah, and that if you can look on the edges of the amulet, you can see slightly raised ridges here along the edge here of clay, yeah. That is also a tamni. You can see it raised here, the raised edge here. You can see the raised edge, huh? The double should be just actually cut here. You see this moving down here? A little wobble going downwards. You see the little wobble goes down here. And on the edge here, along here, you can see that it raises the clay. You can see raised clay like a ridge along the edge here, yeah? And also on this side, you can see a raised edge. And then this little bit joining here. And just look at the chunks. Just look at the chunks. I don't have my super lens on today. I decided to do without it, which those who watch my videos will have seen me use in previous ones. I prefer to do that separately with another phone, with my iPhone 5, with a different lens. So I'll probably do another close-up study of this one as a separate one. And it's a beautiful pratsomde. Just got it. Not certificated. Could send it for certification. Why? Why? Well, because a customer wants, maybe. But it's just a waste of time and money, because it's just the opinion of somebody, really. And I have my own opinion. And I can make some Photoshop and print out an A4 piece of paper, just like this one. Just like this, I could do this in Photoshop and print it out and get me and my friend to sign it. So, you know, does that make it authentic or what? What do you want a certificate for except to show off with? Or because you don't trust? But why do you trust the person who signs the certificate and tells you it's real? Because you're paying him for that certificate and he's making a profit from it. So of course he's going to do a certificate for you. And if it's fake, or he decides he wants you to buy from him, he'll tell you it's fake so that you think, oh, I better don't dare. But this guy knows, so I'll buy from him, and then he'll give me a certificate if I buy one from him. If I buy one from someone else, he might not. That's what it's all about. It's a big con. You don't need a certificate. What you need is knowledge and trust your trader, and follow the logic of your trader and decide your own school of thought. Just look at that. Just look at that. Somdet Wat Rakang Te, 100%. Also, the arch on this Sendai model must be very thin, as you can see. Very thin. And the Kamuat Sum, the little breaks in the sum, in the arch. Yeah. And the chunks and the contractions over well over a century and a half, almost 2 centuries soon. Chunk of Hinsirati Kun in there. Yeah. You can see chunks in the back. Here you can see You can see this, these lines, these crackled lines that take like and blackboard lines where it's been laid on the board to dry. There's the classic pattern of a Wadrakang amulet. Yeah, and look at the red piece of Prat Gamping pit in the middle here. Just here. Broken pieces of Prat Gamping pit. And the contraction. Absolutely beautiful. I have a Wat Bang Kum Prom version of this with crab growth, which was in the Chedi Stupa, which is also beautiful and a completely different appearance. This is smooth because Prat Somdet Wat Rakang were not placed in hiding place to gather mildew and get the rain. They were kept smooth and dry, which is one way you separate. You find this pimp covered in crab growth, you know it's from Bangkok Prom. If the crab growth fits Bangkok Prom crab growth style. But if it's smooth like this, and this is imperfect, this is an on crew. If this belonged in the hands of one of the Tarpajant people in the very expensive showrooms, if I send it to them, they'd tell me it's fake. I guarantee you. And if you did, they would too. But if it was in their hands, they would be asking up to 10 million baht for this. Because I've seen them take a worse, a much uglier, this is not ugly, this is a beautiful, perfect example. And so, price. People want to know prices, I'm talking, and people want to know prices. This in the storefront, you're looking at about 700. Yeah, 20% discount if you contact me out of store. VIPs, ask me for your VIP price. This here comes with certificate, no trophy, but very rare. The Pitta Jumbo Rubutim with Jivara robe and I think Shin Atan inserted, which means a piece of Guman bone or Prai Guman, yeah, ghost bone, or it might be Lek Lai or something. I haven't got my glasses close enough. I can't see properly when I film. So I should actually have really take a proper examination, make my conclusions first. But I do that when I publish. And I like to show my line of thinking and then like what I know and what I also am assuming, to show you how to think and make assumptions, and then you slowly figure it out if that is possible but cannot know, probably true but don't know for sure, that's definitely true. Show you my line of thought, my school of thought, because I don't know everything, and sometimes when I conclude and do know in the end, it comes from beginning by speculation. So I like to make these videos lately by also not just telling you what I know, but also helping to show you how I speculate, why it could be like this or why that's like that, yeah? Because authenticating amulets is much more than just looking at the pimp, and if it's like the one with the arrows pointing to the points of reference in a magazine, then you're just following like a sheep. You're just following like a sheep. You have to study, you know, like they only made a 2517 BE Kunpan to Lumbutim, never made before that. That was his last year of life. He died in 2518. He was already famous in 2500 and 2495. You know, and he ordained as a young Samanera novice as a kid. So you're telling me he never made a kunpain or other amulets before, all through his life as a monk until just halfway through the year before he died, or what? Go away, you people who say that, please. Beautiful amulet. So this, not cheap, I'm sorry. I've only got one. And it took me a long time to find. I found a few, but they were all fake. Because there's a lot of fakes of this one. And I took it to certificate just in case people don't believe me. But actually, you know, I'll keep repeating about certificates. I don't want people to not believe me and ask me for a certificate. What I want people to do is understand me. If you don't agree with me, don't buy from me. If you agree with me and believe in my school of thought, yeah, because I'm not Tapajan, I'm not Dosuwan, although I agree with a lot of things he says, by the way, and the Tapajan are always slagging him off. But that's because they're scared, because he's opening up knowledge. He has made mistakes, and so do I, and so do the Tapajan. But I respect him because he is also a person who knows that Somdetto didn't just make, just like Lumbutim, the Sian Tapajan, they tried to say Lumbutim, an 85 or what year old monk, just made these certain amulets that they have in their hands in his last year of life, and didn't make amulets throughout his life or what. And Somdet Prabhupada just made those Somdet editions just before he passed. And he was, I don't know how old, a century or what, I can't remember how old Somdetto was, I don't know, but I know he went missing for 25 years in the north, and I know he made lukewarm even when he was lukewarm powder balls, even when he was a young Samanera monk, yeah, Somdetto. And I have some that are early era, not made with a block press like this, from the Changluang Sipmu. The artisans, the Sipmu artisans of the royal artisans, such as Lung Wijan, Lung Wijit, and Lung Wisit. Is it? Lung Wijit, Lung Wijan. Oh, there's about 5. Lung Wijit, Lung Wisit, Lung Wijan, and another 2. Which this one is, because it's very perfect, the block press. But I've seen hand-molded ones that are very rounded edges, and you can see they've been pressed into a block press, but they've been molded with the hand. They didn't even have loops to cut them with knives or, you know, straight presses. It was just maybe a round stone. It was just maybe a round stone with the image of the Buddha in the middle, so they would press it in, but when they pulled it out, it would be round, yeah? So they just cut it off and then round it with their fingers if they didn't have a knife, yeah? Whereas these get cut with a knife in those days. In modern days, they just pump them through like a template and push them up. But these get cut with a knife, and often you will see knife markings, like diagonal knife markings, which you don't see much on this one. But I do have examples where I can show that effect. So have a little look. I'm sorry I don't have my super magnifier, but look at the edges. Where the protrusions are, the head, the chest, the arms, the dice, that's where you get to examine this marbled, fossilized effect. Look at the thinness of the Pragat Mala top knot. The very absence of the neck, almost. The very small match head, stick style head. The pieces of Hinsilati Kun and black dots. And the smoothness, this condensed effect. And the bang, you can see very fine powder in the recesses. Not much, but you can see. And the recesses between. And look at this wobbly contraction of the sum, of the arch, and how this goes down this way, slightly leaning down. Yeah, and this too, slightly leaning down. Yeah. And this here stops, this line here stops there. This line here stops on the arch halfway down, which is the Pim Sendai Wadrakang, even according to the Tapajan. So, if I send it, I'm sure they wouldn't pass it, because they never do. They just want the money for the certificate, send you it back telling you it's not real, or that it's not what you say it is. They don't say it's not real, they say it's not what you stated it, you wanted it to be. So that you think, okay, I'll buy from them, and then at least I'll have a Tarpajan certificate. Bollocks. Sorry, my language. Sorry to the Buddha. Actually, it's not a swear word, but it's all imaginary. But anyway, rubbish, you know, absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. I'm moving the light now to my lamp to try and get you a view, because the Muan San of the Prat Somdet Bangkon Prom P09 2509 BE, its milkiness and its the 5 sacred powders, just it's like Chenamon. You look on the edge here, it looks like, I don't know, I haven't invented a word for it yet. You can see this creamy kind of look, you can see this kind of bulgy, creamy, what should we call it? Blancmange? No. I'll invent a word for it for the English language for this kind of effect. Absolutely typical Bangkok Prom 2509. As you can see, the Bangkok Prom amulets, the indentation, the relief of the Buddha is never as deep as that of a Somdet Badrakang. Yeah? Never. Bangkok Prom amulets are a little less deeply indented. Oh, that's nice. Take a shadow on it. You can see on the edges here this effect I was telling you about. Yeah? Which tells you Bangkok Prom 2509. It shouts it out at you. And this effect on the sides. And the back, you can see you can see every feature. The contractions, the little pieces of white crystalline substance, and this inimitable turquoisey blue ink of the Chedi Stupa of Bangkok Prom, or Wat Intravihan, Wat Intravihan, Bangkok Prom, because Wat Bangkok Prom actually has 2 temples in its enclave. And so they split it into Wat Bangkok Prom Nửa and Thai, or Wat Intravihan, Bangkok Prom. This is a Prat Somdet from Luang Por Liam of Wat Si Rương Bun, Hak Sok. Very much like Luang Pu Pu, which I was. Sometimes I buy things from people who are not in front of me and they have to send me a photo, and I don't even like authenticating by photo, never mind buying, so there's a risk there. But I knew this was authentic. The photo was quite clear. Some people, if they send a clear photo, then yeah, you can start considering doing that. But I knew this was real from the photo, and I'm right in my assumption that I made, that it's from Luang Pu Liam or Luang Por Liam of Wat Si Rương Bun, not Luang Pu Pu, because Luang Pu Pu also did the Somdet Kang Yan Hak Sok with many like this, and I believe also Luang Pu Phuak did that, yeah. Luang Pu and Luang Pu Phuak did it, and other masters too. But this is from Luang Por Liam of Wat Si Rương Bun. If it was from Luang Pu Pu, this would be much wider, like the powders of Wat Plap, or much more like these powders here of the Bangkok Prom. Not so tight, fine powders, yeah. And if it was from Luang Pu Phuak, it would be much older Muan San. So this is from Luang Por Liam of Wat Si Rương Bun, and it is the Prat Somdet Kang Yan with Yan on the side. with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13 ชั้น 13 step days, yeah. Beautiful condition, quite hard to find in this absolutely perfect condition. Very nice. So now zoom out a bit. ไอ้ไข่เด็กวัดเจดีย์ a one-off, of course. This is not mass-made edition. This is hand-carved and obviously blessed, because you don't carve this if you don't take it to the temple to be blessed, or probably carved for the temple. Maybe a few, obviously, but how many I really would not know. I really would not know how many at all. But I would assume very few, because it depends on how much wood you have available of this sacred wood, which I believe is Maika Nun. Kanun, nun means to increase and amplify and like roll the snowball, make things increase. And it's made from hand-carved wood with some gold leaf and very, very, very nice detail. You can see his toes, you can see his fingers, you can even see his thingy bob, because he didn't wear any clothes in the temple Aikai, and his facial features and ears and the juk on the top, his top knot. Yeah. Beautiful carving. And official editions, actually temple releases and publicly advertised, have only been going on for a few decades from this temple, but actual images of Aikai have been existed ever since before, I believe, the original, the master who was alive when Aikai, who when he passed away, Aikai, the child of the temple, the temple orphan, the Guman, he's a Rakyom Guman, just walked into the water of the water pool and never came out, just disappeared, died, I suppose, because he was broken-hearted at the death of the monk, which I believe was Luang Por Tong at the time, at the temple of Wat Chedi, yeah? At the temple of the Chedi. So very, very rare for those who like Aikai. Very rare, although I've got a feeling I might be giving this to a friend of mine in Thailand who's a police officer and an immigration officer who is a friend of mine and has an extreme affinity for Aikai. He goes to the temple a lot. So I'm thinking about giving it to him, unless somebody is extremely interested in it, because I can find maybe a Busha statue for him, but I do plan to give him a statue or statuette like this of Aikai. But I'm not decided yet. But I've kind of showed it to him and asked him if he likes it. So this might not be available, I'm afraid, or it might. It won't be going in the shop. But if somebody really wants it, then I might find something else for my friend. But this would actually be nice for his shop. He already has a Nangwak from me statue, Busha statue, which he likes to bring in business for his shop. And he'd probably love this. So I can't promise that will be available. And last but not least is the best example I've ever managed to get, because most of them will have some kind of discrepancy in the carving. Perfect carvings are very hard to find. Luang Por Noi, Wat Si Satong. And you can hopefully see the Lana inscriptions on the back. Yeah, can see them, yeah. Has Lana inscriptions. handmade, and super recognizable as Lumponoi. And the age, which I will show in the next, I will make a separate video of this, because the age of the galah on the back, you can see the cracks in it, yeah? The aging of it is absolutely far beyond the era of Lumpopin, and therefore defines it surely as Lumponoi. But what defines it even more so, apart from the perfect on-crew master artisan carving, and for once very hard to find, a well-made huang, a well-made pendant, is that the side, look at it. Do you notice something? You won't notice unless I tell you, or you've already been taught this. How can I get a focus? I can't see properly. Hang on. I'm trying to get a focus. I'm very sorry about this. Let's get some focus on here. Can you see it's flat? It's flat, completely flat. There you go, there's some light. It's completely flat. Can you see? It's completely flat like paper, yeah? Flat. Now think about it, yeah? Think about it for a second. Completely flat. And it is what? It is one-eyed coconut shell. Galata dio, yeah? Completely flat. Yeah? So, if it's completely flat, Galata dio, what is that? Coconut, no? Coconut. Coconut. Right? So what does a coconut shape have? Yeah? What shape does a coconut have? Huh? Curved, right? Like a ball. So if a coconut shell is curved, when you cut it to make it into pratrahu amulets, any of you who've got handmade carved pratrahu amulets that are not from Lumponoi will notice that they curve. Yeah? And if you can give me just a moment, I'll show you that. And I'm back again. Sorry about that. I'll show you that with this Lumpopin, which is, as you can see, curved like a coconut shell. This is also, I believe, it's actually a Lao design. Also very old. But not Lumponoi, because it wouldn't be curved. It's curved. So his early editions may be curved, some of his earlier ones. But when he mastered this with Cha, you can see it's flat. And that's something that only Lumponoi and various expert adepts know how to do. And I can tell you how they did it. That doesn't mean you'll be successful in trying to do it, because there's a method. But what he did was he would soak or boil or otherwise immerse the coconut shell pieces to be carved in oil, a certain kind of oil, for a certain amount of time first, to soften the coconut, yeah? And that would allow them to thin down the coconut shell and to beat it into a flat shape so that it was easier to make a masterclass carving, which is why a curved carving and a flat carving do not have the same level of detail, because it's much easier to draw on a piece of paper than it is on a ball. isn't it? And lastly, just look at the design of the crown of Rahu, the way he's holding the ball, the scales around the edge, the pattern around the edge of the frame of the amulet, the down pointing naga heads on each side, yeah? The down pointing naga head on each side, and the pattern on the top of the frame is 100% the master artisan of Luang Por Noi. So apart from Krubananta's Prat Rahu, which is a completely different era, you can say, you know the of this size for sure, of this size of the Sema Glab. It's called the Prat Rahu Pim Sema Glab because it's like a Rian Sema, the shield, the emblem shaped coin. Yeah, Sema means this shape. Yeah, Sema means this kind of shape. Yeah, and it's called Sema Glab because the naga heads bend down backwards. Sema Glab. This is the Sema Glab of Luang Por Noi. Yeah, and this is an encru with hand inscriptions. I had one other lesser artisan from Luang Por Noi, which was slightly curved many years ago, which I sold, and that was already expensive for me to buy and expensive for me to sell. Of course, if it's expensive to buy, it's expensive to sell. But meaning I had to make a little bit on it, and so it was even more expensive than what I paid for it. So, but worth it. But you definitely, for a Luang Por Noi amulet of this quality, you're looking at a good $1,000 US in the shop with a free silver casing, waterproof. Have to pay extra for gold because gold right now has gone up really in prices. I do offer free gold with certain items, meaning I put a bit more price on, but then I pay a bit of the gold myself because I say, okay, that this is a very expensive item. I'll take some of my profit and help to pay for the price of the gold. I've done that plenty of times with good customers. So this one would be about $1,000 in the shop with free silver casing, so 20% discount if you contact me. And if you're on my VIP list, VIP customers means people who I've written their names down in a little book because they've spent more than a certain amount over time with me. So I consider them VIP customers because they've spent considerable amounts of money, enough to say, okay, these people get a much more closer to wholesale price. Can ask me, of course, through the usual channels of thailandamulets@outlook.com. iMessage you can use Ajarn Spencer at iCloud.com. Line, but you have to message me. If you just add me, I'll say thanks for adding, but I want to talk or want something, you have to message me online on Thailand Amulets, ID Thailand Amulets, or you can email me at thailandamulets@outlook.com, or you can iMessage me, as I said, at ajanspencer@icloud.com. Yeah, or you can WhatsApp me on ajanspencer@gmail.com, AJARNSPENCER @icloud.com for iMessage, or gmail.com for WhatsApp. I'm not in a rush to sell this one actually. Anyway, so that was a look at a few items. So next time, to just break up things a bit, I'll be doing Somdet School, Amulet School for Prat Somdet. รัตระฆังอันบางขนพรหม